All right, guys, welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel and the instant reaction to a quite kind of monumental, really, and newsworthy SmackDown event. I mean, I knew it'd be a good one. I thought it'd be a fun one, and it was, well, both of those things. Now, I will say, and I said it on the watch along section tonight as well, it was tiring towards the end. It was a show that I felt started to drag a little. And again, if you were with us on the watch along, you'll know that we've got a reporter out there in Spain as well in the form of Lucas from this very channel, letting us know what the vibe is like in the arena. Now, he seemed to have had a fantastic night. Hopefully we'll hear from him throughout this stream as well. But he did say that the audience started to dip a little bit towards the end, get a little bit worn out. But thankfully, we got a huge ending to the show because we have brand new tag team champions in the form of the Street Profits. And I've got to say, I'm very pleased about that, purely because I feel like the Street Profits have been kind of, you know, floundering for a bit. They haven't really settled. They've had these ups and downs. They've been babyface, they've been heel. Even tonight, seeing them come out as babyfaces was confusing. Maybe that's what we're getting going forward. Also, you might have seen in Lucas's original preview content from earlier this week as well that Pretty Deadly looked like they might be winning the titles in London. Maybe that's not going to happen after all, because are you really going to have two title changes before WrestleMania? I mean, is this going to be featured on WrestleMania? We saw Los Garza say they're going to come after, or I should say Santos Escobar, in representation of them, it would seem, saying they're going to come after the Street Profits if they win the titles. Surely DIY want to get back involved in the mix. You've got the Motor City Machine Guns. So again, it's looking like we've got 5 teams leading towards potentially a match at WrestleMania. And in which case, did they need to change the titles here? And if they did, are they going to do it again in London? But maybe that's what they're going to do. They're going to make these European shows kind of just feel must-see, if that makes sense. So, yeah, looking forward to it. What we're going to do in a moment is we're going to throw over to some comments from Lucas. As I say, he is out there in Barcelona at the moment. He's going to let us know what he thinks of the show itself. But we saw some really interesting things on this show. Not only did we see some fun matches, but we also saw some really interesting vignettes. One of those, of course, would be from... well, we don't know who it's from. It looks like it's going to be Rey Fenix. I'm not quite sure if that is the case. Here's another shot of what it looked like. And then also later on, another spooky vignette, even spookier this time, with some smoke. And then the number 4 just appearing on screen. That's it, guys. It was just the number 4. And now people speculating that this is someone completely different and that this is going to be a surprise return for Aleister Black. Now, it will be interesting to see if either of those predictions are correct. Or if they somehow are for the same person, but they both had a very different presentation style. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go right the way back to the beginning of the show, and I'm going to let you know what I thought of each and every segment and each and every match that we got here tonight as well. It started out actually with a 6-man tag, and it was LA Knight who came out first, got great reaction. He was teamed up with Braun Strowman, and who was the other one? Jimmy Uso. And they were going up against the New Bloodline. It was a great little segment to start the show. I think it did get the fans off on a good foot. Everybody was getting good reactions, some hard-hitting moves from Jacob Fatu, as you can imagine. A lot of work going on around the outside of the ring, which we actually saw a lot of throughout the show. We saw... again, just sticking to the show, going to the whole show itself, we saw loads of spots with the announce table. We saw loads of spots with the guardrail, the barriers, and loads of fighting around the ramp and stuff like that, which, again, we're going to get to in just a moment. Right, before we do that, I'm going to throw over to a clip of Lucas. Again, as I've been saying, he has been there reporting for us live in Barcelona tonight. So let's have a little listen to his initial reactions now that he's left the venue as well. Again, really happy that we've managed to get Lucas out there and reporting back to us live. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. We're also going to have a little kind of vlog type feature, if you will, on our TikTok and coming to our YouTube in the coming days as well. So if you want to know more of the kind of SmackDown experience in Barcelona and what that was like for Lucas, then stay tuned and subscribe to us here, I should say, on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and again at RM Pro Wrestling on social media. But let's throw it over first of all to Lucas, and again those instant reactions to what he saw live at the Olympic Arena.
So that was a SmackDown, guys. As I wait for the train back to my Airbnb, we just saw Street Profits become the brand new tag team champions. They bested DIY and what was actually quite a good match. I left halfway through, but I had the remainder of it up on Netflix as I was walking to the train station. Yeah, I think that's the right decision to make. I think obviously there's been a lot of puns made about the reception that DIY have received over the past few months, and it always seems that there's not going to be you know, because of how they do pay-per-views now, they're never going to get tag title changes on pay-per-view, it seems. But I think the Street Profits are the right team, the right time. It was very weird them being presented again as babyfaces after how they returned. It very much felt like they weren't babyfaces, but I guess they made the switch or necessitated the switch because DIY just weren't working in that position. But yeah, really good time, and I'll have more feedback when I'm on the stream.
All right. So once again, great to see Lucas's kind of instant reaction really to what's going on out there in Barcelona. As you see, he had to kind of make a little bit of a dive out there quickly to make his way to the tram station. You know what it's like, guys. If you go to a show, it can get chaos as you start making your way out there. So good for him. He was able to just jump on Netflix and see the ending of the match at least. So I guess he didn't miss out on too much. Now, you're watching the instant reaction review, but we were live earlier on with the watch along. So if you do want to know how we felt, well, more than instantly, pretty much at the time, really, then just watch the earlier part of that stream and you'll see exactly what we thought of the show. But again, it started out with a 6-man tag, quite a fun one, quite an enjoyable one. Again, the person coming out of this, as you might expect, looking the strongest was, of course, Jacob Fatu. But yeah, a pretty enjoyable match. He basically took out Braun Strowman and eventually would challenge him to a match next week as well. Now, after that, we got a cool little segment with Jay Cargill sitting and talking in the stands with Kathy Kelly, I believe it was. And then out of nowhere came Liv and Raquel arriving for the show, which was a bit odd now that I think about it, because they weren't on the show. What? Wait a minute. Yeah, they weren't even on the show, but they're just sitting and catering. Surely, I mean, it was filmed earlier in the day. Sure, it's filmed earlier, and they maybe were doing like press or something, and they were in town, but they just went somewhere else, and they're off to wherever WWE are at tomorrow. I don't know, but yeah, it wasn't that. I think about it, they weren't even on the show, but a fun little segment. Again, something quite different. It was nice to see the presentation of it, just kind of freshen things up, and yeah, basically, Liv taking a mick out of Jade, but Jade basically saying, look, if it weren't for me not being in the picture, you wouldn't be a tag champ, and title or not, I'll be coming after you. So it looks like we're going to get a match between Liv Morgan and Jay Cargill next week. And Morgan had a funny line where she said, just make sure you don't fall onto any cars until which is quite a good line, of course, because the main point of the promo initially was to kind of build on this situation with Naomi and potentially Bianca Belair as well. Next up, we got a match between B-Fab and Charlotte Flair. Now, this is one that I actually quite enjoyed, actually. I think B-Fab, we looked into her singles match history on the watch along because, again, I couldn't really recall if any times I've actually seen her wrestle one-on-one. But yeah, I think she did really well. Considering her experience, I think she did, as I say, very well. We saw many times tonight wrestlers speaking Spanish to the Spanish crowd. I think great. I think that was something that they did really, really well. Of course, we had Axiom come out later on who didn't speak, but, you know, a representation of Spain. But then many Spanish-speaking countries, of course, have wrestlers in the WWE as well. So here you've got B-Fab growing up in Colombia, so she can speak Spanish. We also saw some Spanish, of course, from Damian Priest being Puerto Rican. We even saw The Miz talk Spanish, I think it was. Who else did we get? We've got quite a lot, to be honest. But anyway, moving back to the match itself, B-Fab versus Charlotte Flair was quite a good one as well. I think B-Fab looked better than I expected. Not just saying like how she looks as a wrestler, but I think the presentation of her, I think they gave her quite a lot of offense. They made her look like a threat to Charlotte Flair, but the right decision was made, of course, for Charlotte Flair to come away with the victory because she's got to look strong going into the match at WrestleMania with Tiffany Stratton. Now, speaking of Tiffany Stratton, wow. Wow. This match just well, I mean, this segment, I should say, just went on and on and on. It was a bit like the CM Punk Seth Rollins situation a few weeks back on Monday Night Raw, where they just kept brawling and get pulled apart. But this time, every time they got pulled apart, someone went up high and jumped on the other one. We saw off a turnbuckle, I think the announce table. Eventually, we would see it spill into the next segment, which was Miz TV, by the way. It felt like we were moving straight into that. But no, these guys start spilling back out onto the mat again, into the ramp again, I should say. Then you got Tiffany Stratton climb up to the Titantron, or the screen, whatever they want to call it these days. And look, it wasn't the highest one. It wasn't like Shane McMahon falling off of it, or even a few Jeff Hardy stunts we've seen in the past. But credit where it's due, it was still a fantastic spot, a great visual. But yeah, Tiffany Stratton flew Swanton off the top of the Titantron onto Charlotte Flair, and of course all the security taking the fall as well. Now, she'd already done this spot, again a flip off the turnbuckle, and she tucked a little late, and she landed kind of a little not messy, but a messier than the spot we've just been talking about. So I'm not sure if this was just done on the fly to say, get it again, we want to use another promo shot for the promos going forward. So I'm not entirely sure, but either way, a cool little spot there. Did enjoy what we saw from Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. And of course, as you might expect, Tiffany Stratton got a great reception from the fans out in Spain as well. Now, along of Charlotte Flair's entrance, you can see that the fans were really happy to see the Queen. A few woos there, and then in a moment, yeah, lovely little firework display as well. And it really did. I mean, the presentation on this show was quite impressive. You know, it was, I guess, just a SmackDown, but the fact that they were given, you know, big pyro, that we got a title match and a title change at the end of it as well, I think they gave the fans in Barcelona their money's worth. I really do think it was a good show. Another little clip we got here from Lucas as well. Here's again of that melee we saw on the outside of Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair going at it. Again, great to have Lucas's reporting coming live from Barcelona throughout the night as well. Let's move on to the next segment as well. We saw, what do we see next? I think it was, no, we've had the empty arena thing. We've had the Charlotte Flair and B-Fab. Next up, we got Drew McIntyre basically hyping up why he doesn't like Damian Priest, which we'll get to in a bit because that was part of the show as well. That was it, the Miz TV segment that we were supposed to get. Now, Cody Rhodes was the guest on Miz TV, and well, it didn't last long, did it? Cody Rhodes came out, didn't have much to say, a little bit annoyed at the fact that the Miz cut him off. He didn't want it to be sing along with Cody Rhodes, and basically when Cody gets up for the second woe on his entrance, the fans sing it, but Cody gets a little bit annoyed because the music has stopped because Miz has demanded for it to be the case. Now he gets down, jumps to the floor, uppercut, hits him with a crossroads and throws him out the ring. That was pretty much it. Then he gets on the mic and says, look, John Cena, I'm coming for you, basically. I'm going to be on Raw next week. You're going to be there. We're going to be under the same roof. Let's see what happens, pretty much. So, yeah, straight to the point. I do somewhat feel bad for the fans in Barcelona because I feel like Cody Rhodes is such a big deal at the moment for a lot of people that they haven't seen him live in this version of Cody Rhodes, at least as WWE champion, or even since his return to WWE as the American Nightmare. So I do hope that they've had some sort of dark segment. I'm not sure if they have, but either way, it's not like he didn't show up and he didn't give them something. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's the kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a dark match. But again, it's been a long, long night for those out there in Barcelona. As much as they had a fun show, I'm sure a lot of them are like Lucas and heading for the tram quite quickly. But that was the Miz TV segment. Again, quite a fun segment. I'm glad it didn't go over. It didn't go on or anything like that. It was straight to the point and quite fun. Now, talking of fun, the speculation going forward is going to be wild, right? When it comes to what we saw here, it looks like to me a promo for Rey Fenix. Here's a closer shot as well, and you can see there the outline of what looks to me like a luchador, but specifically, again, it does look like Rey Fenix. I've got to say. Now we get another one of these later on, but I want to know, what do you guys think? Is Rey Fenix showing up in WWE anytime soon? If not, who else is it, right? And it's interesting that we're getting this just before WrestleMania. There's a lot going on in WWE, man. There's a lot to be excited about. Next up, we got Damian Priest and Shinsuke Nakamura backstage having a little bit of a disagreement, essentially. That ended up becoming a match. And yeah, pretty fun match overall. Again, the presentation of Nakamura, incredible. His entrance is so cool. Just reminding me how disappointed I am that they gave him the US title just for nothing, it seems. Yeah, LA Knight looks over as Rover, as they say at the moment. Again, looked fantastic out there in Barcelona. Got a great reception from the fans. Deserves to be a champion, you could say as well. But yeah, why take it off him? I'm still not quite sure. Anyway, Damian Priest wins from a disqualification, essentially, because Drew McIntyre arrived. And he tried to distract him, first of all. But he hit the South of Heaven on Nakamura. Looked like he was going to go for the win and pick it up, but Drew McIntyre ended up attacking Damian Priest and causing the disqualification. Again, pretty enjoyable segment, fun match. The ending, exactly what you need it to be, right? I think this has set up their feud so much more than it previously was. I think when we saw the rumors coming out of Royal Rumble and then saw what happened at Elimination Chamber, and it seemed clear what they were going to do. Bit confusing, but now it starts to make more sense. Speaking of making more sense, I'm going to bring in our Roman reporter now, Lucas, who is out there in Barcelona. So here he is, live from Spain. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, guys. Don't know if you can hear me.
All good.
Yeah, all good. Yeah. So I'm just literally near the hotel again on the Airbnb, and what a show that was tonight, eh?
Amazing.
SmackDown delivered, I want to think. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to not trip over or get run over.
Be careful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the only thing I have to say, it doesn't need to be 3 hours. My God.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of action tonight and a lot of storyline progression to WrestleMania, which is interesting, you know, because sometimes these international shows, when they're TV, they can feel a bit like an afterthought. But I think they're doing a really good job of making it seem like a big deal. Obviously, some of the boos that came later on in the broadcast, I don't know whether they made the broadcast, but definitely during the show. But when they were announcing stuff for next week,
yeah, the Roman Reigns one was the worst one.
Well.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
The Roman Reigns one was the worst for that.
Yeah, they did not like that at all. Or the Braun and Jacob Fatu announcement, it got booed quite heavily, which, you know, I get that. Obviously, you know, that's just one of those things, isn't it? But it just feel like a lot of people tonight actually did expect Roman Reigns to be there. The kind of section I was in, a lot of Roman Reigns fans. There was a big CM Punk outpouring. You know, and so I think it's something they may need to look to address, you know, going forward, because, you know, going into TV without some of your big stars, you know, people might feel a bit shortchanged. But I think for the show, you know, the show that we got, though, was very, very good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, like you say, the 3 hour thing is what I've been kind of saying myself as well. I think just from watching it at home felt kind of tiring. So I can imagine in the arena it felt even more so. But yeah, overall, I think a great show. I mean, you got a title change. We've got teases. Yeah. I don't know how much you saw about those teases. I mean, did you see much of that? People were speculating the first one, Rey Fenix, the second one, Alistair Black. Have you got thoughts on those?
Yes, it's 4, isn't it? The number 4 is in Dark and Mystery. I mean, I thought that the what do you call it? The first teaser was for Axiom, because it had the whole what do you call it?
Like the lucha theme. So just that he was going to appear on the night, a little hint towards that, maybe.
But yeah, it had all that. But I wasn't too sure. Then obviously after that, they then did the what do you call it? The actual trailer, so to speak, for Axiom. Followed by obviously Axiom having a date. Oh God, what a debut!
Yeah,
what a
unbelievable. Yeah.
The whole arena was basically shaking during that match and during the Randy Orton match. I've said this previously on this channel. I think Randy Orton is becoming, he's getting that kind of just legacy pop now, isn't he? Everyone's just so happy to have him back and have him part of the company.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I imagine you had some goosebumps when his song was being sung, and I'm sure you were singing at the top of your lungs as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of singing tonight, and it's always quite interesting when you come internationally. I'm just going to move away from the residential properties, because obviously I don't want to be on.
Unless they hear us and subscribe, we don't want to disturb them too much.
Indeed. So the rain has just about stopped here, thankfully. It was a miserable evening, as you probably saw from some of the clips I sent you earlier. It was absolutely miserable evening, especially to get in. And you know what's interesting about these European ones is that you kind of get to see how kind of relaxed it is in these places, compared to obviously England in particular, and definitely America. It was very relaxed getting in, maybe too relaxed. I might like, especially given the weather. It just felt a bit like a free for all. And then once you kind of got in, again, it was just like, it was very just free, basically free to do what you wanted.
Okay.
But I think they, what I did notice though, and I spoke to someone actually, a guy from Chile. I can't remember his name. I sat next to him in my first section of the evening. We'll get to that.
Oh, you did a bit of skipping, did you?
Yeah, basically, I just got so overwhelmed by the time I got in. I needed to go to the toilet, and then I just didn't. The numbers were all different to what was in my ticket, and I couldn't find anyone. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sit here. So anyway, I sat next to a guy from Chile actually. Again, everything I'm about to say follows with a pinch of salt, but apparently he either has worked with or knows someone who works with Tiffany, and he was going to talk to me about her and about how next year already there's 2 shows announced for Chile. I believe they're going to be house shows or maybe part of a tour. But obviously he had never actually seen the product live. He says he lives in Madrid, so obviously this was the closest one for him to come to, but he's never actually seen it live. And so annoyingly I had to then move afterwards. I'd like to see his kind of reaction to obviously the whole machine and stuff. But then in my other section, I got speaking to the people either side of me and the person in front, one of the people in front. And it just felt like people were so happy, kind of that there was the product coming, to the thing. But something that I did find out is that they had a ticket sale last week. And I checked this myself because, yes, on the day tickets were actually available for half the price.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's a ticket. I took a screenshot earlier, but the ticket in the section that I was looking at previously was €100. And on the day, if I wanted to buy it then and there, they wanted €50 for it. So it did seem that there'd been like a late surge in sales because of those ticket prices being reduced.
It did look full though, because when you first showed us pictures and stuff when you got there, it was slowly filling up, and you said it was a smaller venue and a smaller setup. I got to be honest, the way they presented it on TV, it looked bigger than what you showed us. So it was really interesting to get both kind of views of that. But what did you feel like once it did fill up? Did it feel like it was a sold out house for the most part?
Yeah, I mean, there was, behind the hard cam, there was empties. I don't know what they're claiming on. Again, we don't know. I obviously sitting there live. I don't know the announcements.
They didn't announce it, as far as I remember. So
yeah, because it wasn't a sellout. But it's still like a very, very big house, and I think obviously having the the fan being very loud and receptive is good. But I think they may have learned that. I think in this part of the world, having tickets at and above, the 300, 400, 500 euro marks isn't really going to cut it, and hence the severe price reductions that we're seeing. And there's proof of it. It's not. It's not. I know in the comments, some people, there's a lot of these posts go, you're just an AEW fanboy or this, that, and the other. But it's like it's proof. Like that, I checked myself when I moved to my second section. I chose a seat that was for sale, so I knew that no one would actually come and sit there because technically no one actually bought the seat. So I had moved to that. I mean, but I would say it felt like a loud, full crowd. And I think that they don't need to worry about particularly selling out kind of all these kind of things. I think it's just a case of getting the interest and being able to go back next year. And we got to remember where we come from. We've come from, first house shows where, they didn't really matter, then to TV, which got, in a nice possible way, increasingly lazier and lazier as the years went on, as it stuck to a format of, before Mania, or also after WrestleMania, or was it before or after Survivor Series?
We used to get after Mania and around November. So it must have been early. It must have been just before Survivor Series.
I think before Survivor Series,
at the end of November Survivor Series. So yeah,
and one Raw went down south, one Raw and SmackDown went obviously up north, and that's how the is. But to get to the state now where obviously they're about to promote, obviously, in terms of Europe, they're about to promote obviously Clash in Paris. A lot of Clash can be anywhere now to them.
No forget the castle.
No castle anymore. But it does seem like they're stacking these shows on this tour. Like, next week, obviously they announced a lot for next week. Obviously Roman Reigns returning in Italy. He got booed tonight, but I don't think he'll get booed next week when he's live.
Of course not,
and of course, you got Jade Cargill's first in-ring action since he attacked by Naomi. Next week, you got Zelina Vega actually back in action. She'll be facing, I think, Piper Niven. And of course, the big Hoss fight, no bread, no water, just me. To quote a Booker T. And you got Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman going at it. Which one would assume is going to end in some sort of brawl, and they're going to go on and face again at Mania. Because this has Mania written all over it, surely.
Well, I mean, there were so many people in that opening segment with the 6 out of the 6 that was like, what are they doing at Mania? Like, I just can't picture it. I mean, that's the one that's the most nailed on at the moment. But yeah, quite hard to tell. Look, we'll cover that more as we go on, leading up to WrestleMania itself. But just want to get your thoughts a little bit more on kind of the in-house experience, right? So what would you say off the top of your head were the most kind of exciting moments and pops, whether it be someone's entrance or a reaction to a line said in a promo, or where did you see the fans really kind of get off their feet and kind of make some noise?
I think although there was a bit of a lull at one point, I think the crowd was actually really good the whole show. But I think the main ones that would stick out was Axiom. And I'm just saying Axiom is in the entire package that was entered in front of them. I think the entrance, the Gunther. I'd actually argue Gunther's promo kind of. I liked how, to be fair, with promos tonight. Obviously, I messaged you while I was there saying it's always weird when these promo segments in front of fans whose first language isn't English. But I think they did a good way around it tonight. Obviously, LA Knight came out and did his catchphrase 10 times in a row. So that was quite an easy one. And then they set up a 6-man tag. Obviously, Miz TV was barely 2 minutes long because, Cody just got straight to it. And then again, with this, it was a case of Gunther just said, he just basically got the heat, on Barcelona by preferring to Madrid, which obviously is a rival city of theirs. And then went straight into, I'm going to face A-Kid, face Axiom. But I think everything about Axiom and how he presented tonight was the crowd absolutely loved. They loved. And it was a fantastic, truly a fantastic match. It's quite easy sometimes with these things when there's hometown heroes involved to go like, oh, it's just because it's our hometown. No, the match was fantastic. It was a truly fantastic match. And obviously, if it's looking likely that Axiom and Nathan Fraser, for Axiom, I think they've now actually finally filed for a trademark for that.
Yeah.
If it is likely that they are going to be called up, to SmackDown. I guess to the main roster, and it seems maybe SmackDown after Mania. I think they'd be a great addition. But that was basically one of them. I also think Randy Orton, like I said, I think he's just entered that legacy era, if you pardon all the puns of that, where people just will not boo the guy. They just will not boo the guy. They love him, and people are so respectful towards him. When he's obviously making his entrance stuff. And then the other one that surprised me, and I think they should be quite glad about it, is I think B-Fab. I think B-Fab got quite a good reception. I think, obviously, I think there was only one women's match the whole show, wasn't there, I think?
Yeah, it spilled into the Tiffany Stratton segment, which was crazy, which I want to get your thoughts on in a moment as well. But you're right. I think B-Fab was presented really well. And for someone that I was looking into history, I was trying to see how many singles matches she's had, and it really isn't much, and hardly any. And so I think I was surprised how well presented she was, but still protected Charlotte. I think it was really well done.
Yeah, I think this is what we needed. I think we needed to see Charlotte obviously have a match. And obviously it was good that she's able to do it with someone who hasn't really had much ring time. And maybe this is a part of Charlotte which, I guess, there's lots of stuff about Charlotte, all the politics and stuff that she's into potentially. But I think if this is something that she wants to do, and she wants to obviously give this time to women who don't get time, let's be real. Like there was nothing for B-Fab. Like let's be real.
Yeah, it gave her something to do. Yeah.
Given the chance to go, with Charlotte Flair, obviously the brawl that followed. Now I'm hoping, obviously, WrestleMania season, and two things crop up quite a lot during WrestleMania season. Number one is the pull apart brawls. Number two is the talk show segments. It seems that talk show went away for a little bit, and we kind of almost had one today. I don't know. Like, do you count Miss TV as one today? It was really kind of didn't restart, did it? But I think that they've got to be careful not to overdo this trope. I thought while there was the good dive that Tiffany did off the top rope, and then obviously the bigger dive she did when they came back, which is very weird for them to do that on SmackDown.
I wasn't sure if the first one, because she tucked her head late on the Swanton off the top rope. It looked good, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, you know what, we could do something bigger, go back and do this, because it came after the break as well.
It feels like too big a spot to just go and do it.
Yeah,
Especially because Miz referred to it as well and everything. I mean, yeah, look, they are professionals. I get that could happen. The only kind of gripe is, I think all the pull-apart brawls are becoming the same. And you kind of see the next thing happening, like, very quickly. Because they do the whole, like, and why do they pull them apart and just leave them next to each other? Or not, like, leave the gap so they can run around. It's quite odd. And then, there is that part where you're like, also, so what? Like 10 to 15 men can't separate two women. It doesn't make any sense to me. It kind of takes you out of it a little bit. I think they maybe need to look at how they present these things, particularly as we are on the road to WrestleMania, and we're going to be seeing this quite a lot now. Like, I just think having the whole, like, they pull apart, but then they don't really go apart, and that leaves them to run around, and they're able, like, just to dive on top of them, like, at free will, it seems.
Yeah.
I think they maybe got to have a think about how they do these segments. But I thought, weirdly, actually thought the second part of the segment was better. And maybe that's what they should have done. They should have had the pull apart and actually have it be. I think that's what it is. I think the pull apart brawl now, it almost seems like it never actually gets pulled apart.
Yeah, so I think it was great when Punk and Rollins did it, but because that was only a few weeks ago, it was like, oh, this is a bit strange to do it again. It was different. I think the spot was fantastic, and I think it makes their feud look good. But yeah, it can feel a bit repetitive at times and a bit silly as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they need to find, a different way to obviously tell the same story.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what wrestling is as a whole. Yeah. But look, for this crowd, it got the pop. Tiffany's very, very over. She was very, very over. Charlotte, even though she was getting booed throughout the match, she got cheered in her entrance, and she gets that kind of, there is still that kind of like, we're happy she's here kind of pop that she gets.
Yeah.
Be interesting seeing how they develop that kind of going into WrestleMania, where you'd have to imagine Charlotte Flair is going to be the villain, and obviously Tiffany Stratton is the babyface, which obviously is a big change from where we were last year. And Tiffany has had this kind of like wave, all the time, it seems. Even since leaving NXT, she left NXT, even though as a villain, but as a beloved villain, and then she debuted in the main roster as a villain. But then she kind of, I guess, because how she wrestled as well, isn't it? But it'd be interesting seeing. But what I liked about this though is it's the first kind of realness to this feud. Does that make sense? Like, it's all right. Charlotte Flair winning the Rumble, then pointing at the sign, and then kind of coming out of Tiffany had a match and doing one move. But this is like the first I've seen. This is actually the match now. Like, get excited for it. This is actually the match. And obviously, as we continue on this road to WrestleMania, we have to be thinking about. We pretty much do know Night 2's main event, but what is Night 1's? Like, is it going to be one of the women's matches? Is it going to be Jey Uso and Gunther? Or is it going to be something else? And obviously, something else did come into fruition today. Potential kind of story that might get that Night 1 spot in the main event. As obviously Paul Heyman returned, and obviously announced Roman Reigns, and there's that kind of ongoing feud. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins, which that could be a main event. WrestleMania, we say one the night. We're talking about Night 1 now. Let's be deadly honest.
I
fathom a universe that exists, but John Cena and Cody Rhodes is not the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania. The only way I can't fathom that happening is if there's a night 3. Again, I think there'd be a night 3, and that'll be the main event.
And one day that could be the case, but yeah, for now it's 2. I think that the triple threat could potentially open one of the nights as well. But again, sees what else is going on with the card as well. But look, it's going to be a really interesting road to WrestleMania, especially because there are so many pit stops through Europe. It's going to be great to be able to do a lot more of these streams as we do to kind of watch SmackDown and Raw at a reasonable time. But it's been really good to have you out there in Barcelona and keeping us up to date with what's been going on as well. Gonna let you go, mate. But before you do, just let me know if there's any kind of big things we missed or any other points you want to make about the kind of in-venue experience you had there for SmackDown tonight.
No, it was good. It was good. Nice venue. And look forward to the next one. And I'll be on the stream most likely on Monday as Raw rolls into Brussels and we talk about all things John Cena, Cody Rhodes, and everything else that's going on. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Scott, and I'll see you soon.
Perfect, mate. Thanks for the updates. Take care. Get home safe.
See you, man. All right, bye.
All right. So once again, great to see Lucas out there live, letting us know what's going on in Barcelona for WWE SmackDown. What a show it was. Now let's throw it over to some of these comments here. We've got the OG and the only Mark UK. Great to have you back in the house, mate. You say, can someone tell Charlotte to actually help younger talent go over instead of standing to the side and falling over herself as the security went down? Yeah, I did notice that as well. And I think it stood out more because they're all in like black shirts, right? And she's in this really bright colored thing. I noticed it more in the Swanton from the top rope. She was like in the corner, barely involved. Now, when you get these big spots and it's like 6 people in a match and the 6th jumps on the rest of the 5, it kind of works. Or there's that many people and then all these, security around them. But when it was one person in a bright color, I think it really stood out with her blonde hair looking very different as well. It stood out that she wasn't in the fire line in that bit. So I get what you mean for that. But yeah, you said as well, for me, I think because Charlotte messed up the first one, they sent her back out to do a second one. Okay, yeah. So again, touching on that Swanton, you do feel like the first one with Charlotte being in that position might have been, because exactly that. You're right. They wanted to, as I said earlier on, surely have this to promote the match going forward. And if Charlotte's barely in the clip, because she's on the edge of it, it wouldn't look as good. So as Lucas said, this is, maybe they wouldn't, this is kind of spot they would plan in future, but maybe, again, they are professionals and it wasn't as high as telling someone like, again, Shane or Jeff Hardy to go up as high as they've been in the past. Again, credit to Tiffany for doing the spot, but I don't think it's out of possibility that they did in the break go, Tiff, would you be comfortable jumping off of that? We're doing it again. Now, going on to some more of these comments as well. Mark, you say the luchador is Rey Fenix, again, referring to the segment we saw, the little spooky vignette we saw. Looks like it is a luchador. Looks like it is Rey Fenix. We'll have to see. Time will tell. Speaking of spooky vignettes as well, again, a lot of rumors going around about this one. Completely different presentation style. So I don't think they are about the same person. Don't know what 4 means, but suddenly people think Aleister Black is on his way back and it's related to him. I wouldn't be against that. But again, great to have Lucas's input there. Great for those in the comments. Keep them coming, guys. You are now watching the instant reaction review. Earlier on, we did the watch along of the show itself. If you are yet to watch the show, feel free to go back and watch it on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. But here we are on the instant reaction review. Not only have we had an instant reaction from me watching from TV, again, it's incredible that we've had the opportunity to hear what Lucas had to say as he was out there in Spain for the show itself. Now, picking up with the review of segment by segment that I was given earlier on. The last thing we spoke about, of course, was the Damian Priest-Drew McIntyre match, moment, I should say, leading towards their match at WrestleMania. And again, I do feel like this has started to heat things up and make that match and feud seem a little bit more important. When we had the promo video and Drew explained why he wants to go after Priest, I think it made a lot more sense. And then it got quite vicious here. I think it was quite good, well executed. Next up, we had the in-ring return of Randy Orton against Carmelo Hayes. Now, this was a very fun match as well. Again, Lucas was there singing his heart out as we got to just a moment ago, very much with the other fans in Barcelona. And we got some really good spots in this as well. Once again, throw it over to a clip that Lucas sent us earlier on. Really enjoyed this move from Carmelo Hayes. As you see, misses the jump off the top rope. And this moment here, look at this, jumps onto the woo, amazing spot, jumps off of the rope in a springboard motion, does the DDT. Orton can't even see it coming, doesn't know what's coming. So proper pro there as well. Really, really well executed. And some really fun spots in this match overall. I think it did make both of them look good, essentially, which is basically what you want, right? Randy Orton, of course, massively, massively over, as you would expect, doing this kind of... not a retirement tour like John Cena, but still very much in the twilight of his career and getting mad appreciation from especially international fans when they get to see him for potentially the last time. Look, I don't want to put a clock on his career or anything like that, but as they said on SmackDown tonight, they haven't been there for a few years now. So if that happens again, who knows where we're at in the career of Randy Orton. But I do feel like he's got a little bit left in the tank, which is great to see when you see a match like he had tonight, again picking up the victory against Carmelo Hayes. Then we got a backstage segment I referred to earlier on, where Jacob did cut that promo against Strowman. Said, look, we're going to go at it next week, so that'd be interesting to see how that goes down in Bologna. Then we got the number 4 spooky segment as well. And again, I'd love to hear your comments, guys, whether live or on demand. Let me know who you think this is referring to, and the other one as well. Then we saw Gunther make his way to the ring, and he said he was going to call out a kid, and it would be Axiom, hometown boy, or sort of at least home country boy. And as Lucas said earlier on, what a performance from Axiom. Talk about bursting onto the scene, right? Yes, he's a champion. He's a champion in NXT. And again, they've done really well lately. It looks like they might even get called up to the main roster. But this is kind of a picture to those that aren't sure of Axiom or haven't seen much of him, or even to those, you know, working in WWE, thinking about bringing him up, of what he can do. Now, yes, the reception is different when it's your home country, right? That was a big part of why they did this. It's the biggest part of why they did this. But man, when it comes to the talent, what a showing he put on with Gunther. A fantastic match. Really, really enjoyed it. And again, I think it was almost, or maybe even, PLE quality. Gunther picks up the win here. Did think Jey Uso was going to come out. Didn't happen, but we do get some references to him later on in the show. Paul Heyman comes out, basically does a kind of tease of the triple threat situation and of, you know, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Interesting kind of words used. He's basically really against Seth and wants Punk to know that he still is supporting of Roman, and of course wants Roman to know that, because Roman looked a bit suspect at what he saw on Monday Night Raw in the steel cage when he was kind of cradling Punk essentially. But yeah, a short but sweet segment, mainly to promote 2K25. Anyway, moving on from that, we do get that segment I talked about just a moment ago with, this time, Jimmy Uso backstage with Gunther, where Gunther again was basically saying, look, tell your brother not to come for me because it will end up like Axiom. It's for the best. Look, if you want to see my thoughts on this and how it went down at the time, you can again go back and watch the watch-along show. But look, overall, I thought this was a good segment. Not much else to say there. Again, it's WrestleMania season. It's about building these feuds and kind of getting in the kind of the hype season really for WrestleMania, and I think they did it well. Now I got to say, the hype did start to die down around this point, maybe even a little bit earlier. Well, yeah, it was just tiring, you know. And again, the reason why we're doing this, guys, is because we're here in Europe and we get to watch it at a reasonable time. But even I'm feeling tired. It's not the 3 a.m.s or the 4 a.m.s we're used to, or even the 5 a.m. sometimes. 6. Oh gosh, I look forward to that at WrestleMania. But it was still a tiring night of watching wrestling. Now imagine being there at the show. Now that's not to say it weren't great. Like, it weren't, you know, it didn't deliver. You know, it had some great moments. It had some, the fans were on fire, but they certainly started to peter out towards the end. And again, that's not just coming from us watching it on TV. Lucas said the same, being there in person, it does start to get a little tiresome, which is a shame. Because this match coming up next really, really deserved more at the beginning. Not saying the fans didn't want to give him love. They tried. But it had to be picked up. And I think they were picked up. To the credit of DIY and to the credit of the Street Profits, this was a really fun match. A surprise switcheroo at the end with the titles. Pretty Deadly kept being shown at the back, I thought they were going to come out. I thought there'd be some sort of like schmoz finish. No, there wasn't. A title change hands in Barcelona, and it was really fun to see. I mean, Street Profits again haven't had the titles for quite some time. Still don't quite understand why they came out as baby faces, but they are. And the switch, I guess, naturally happened because people were ready to cheer for him. And yeah, they won the titles in the match that I think was really, really enjoyable. Now, it'd be interesting to see where DIY go here. You'd imagine they and the rest of the teams that have been in and around this title picture will be involved in a match at WrestleMania. Maybe a 5-way tag match if things are kind of shaping up the way they seem on WWE TV. The only way I think that might not be the case is if they took someone out of it. And I think because of the way they've treated Pretty Deadly in the past, pushing him, pulling him, pushing and pulling him, I thought it might be them. But then I was thinking, well, the UK tour's coming up, UK section of the European tour, I should say. And Lucas was assuming that maybe they'd win the titles. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case because they've just had a title change. Stranger things have happened. But maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Either way, I think they're firmly involved in this feud. And I hope it's not just to do something in London and then take them out of the feud. I think they deserve to be in whatever this becomes at WrestleMania. Now, if you haven't already, guys, we've got an interview with the boys from Pretty Deadly, yes boy, on this very channel. We talked about the story behind their call-up and the shock behind it for them, and also the British wrestling scene. So if you're interested in hearing what the boys have to say about that, then I do recommend checking it out on this very channel. That was, of course, when it was here for SmackDown and Money in the Bank a while back here in London, and we're hoping to bring you as much content surrounding the London shows this time around as well. But as we alluded to just a moment ago with Lucas, we're also going to be covering pretty much all of the European shows as much as we can, airing live SmackDown and Raw, just to kind of break down this exciting road to WrestleMania. Now, again, ended with a big title change, but overall a fun night. Really hope you've enjoyed watching it with me. I've enjoyed breaking it down on the Instant Reaction podcast, but also on the watch along stream earlier on. Great again to have Lucas in the house, not just this house, but that house over there in Spain, to let us know what the vibe, the experience, and the atmosphere was like for the fans in Barcelona. And really good to have those that have watched with us both live and on demand. Appreciate your comments as always. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I've been Scott. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. You saw Lucas out there in Barcelona. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.